This is why I do early mornings. Just spectacular. What makes it even better is the kettle's boiling. Well, good morning and welcome back to another week on my allotment. Feels like ages since I posted a video. And the opening scenes of the sunrise were from a week ago. I'm here for sunrise this morning, but not quite the spectacular affair it was last week. But anyway, never mind. Life has been busy again, it takes over. My daughter and her fiance Carl have bought themselves a VW camper van, T5 I think it is, and they came up yesterday and we had a day out in the Forest of Dean in it, and it was absolutely magical. My memories as a child, many of my memories were formed with my mum and dad owning a small Toyota Hi-Ace camper van, and we had holidays all over the UK, and you know, they were wonderful memories. I have to say campsites were a lot simpler then. They tended to be a field with somewhere to empty your toilet and a water trough to fill your kettle from. They're a little more sophisticated now, but I don't think they're any the better for it. But and then when we had our children, we had 3 motor caravans, and we've now had 2 caravans. So you know, my children were brought up with camping and have many happy memories from it. So the fact that my daughter has now bought her own camper van with Carl, it means we've moved up a generation. We're now the older generation, and we already plan to meet up at several campsites throughout the country over the forthcoming year. So it's a really special moment for my wife and I. So we had a lovely day. So what's been going on the plot? Well, it's not the most exciting stuff, but you know, on allotments, what is? And I've been carrying on with the compost bays, on both sides of the main path, and it's been quite successful. I haven't quite finished. I'm hoping to do that today, so I'll show you what I've been up to in a minute. And then it's really, I need to start switching to the beds. The weeds aren't growing yet. It's bitterly cold this morning. The fire's on. Got my first brew of the day, but I shall be retreating in there in a minute. But the weeds aren't growing, as I say, but now's the time to start hoeing and raking. Excuse me. So yeah, nothing really exciting, but it's good to be back with you, and we'll see how the day develops. Cheers. I tell you, I can't begin to tell you how lovely it is when, you know, it's bitterly cold out there, it's sub-zero, and you come in here. I mean, I've got the double doors wide open, so you know it's not efficient and I'm losing a lot of heat. But you come in here and just the heat hits you like a wall, and the kettle's permanently ticking over on boil. You know, and I've just seen the tip of the sun coming up. Fantastic. I just wanted to say, I wanted to mention one of my subscribers, and I've mentioned him before, a chap called Brian, who's now watched all my videos. Well done, Brian. And he sent me a message on Instagram, actually, saying that after some of my, you know, I do this stuff about health. I'm no expert. I know nothing other than what I read. And I do it, one, because it's just a little bit different, and it's, you know, in the depths of January when there's bugger all happening on the plot, it's, you know, it's something to talk about, and I hope it stimulates thought. And of course, if it stimulates thought and your thought is, that's a load of rubbish, Martin, well, so be it. Anyway, Brian went off and did his own research, prompted, he says, by my ramblings. And he decided that there was something in it, and he'd go plant-based, and he told me a month ago, and I did say on the channel that he was going to give plant-based a go. Well, I've had an update from Brian, for which I thank him, and he said 1 month in, I've lost half a stone, and I haven't had to use my asthma inhaler for 2 weeks. And, you know, that's so humbling, Brian. It thrills me. You know, there's always that worry when someone says they're going to change the way they live because of something you said. And you think, oh Christ, bloody hell. But that's absolutely wonderful. And it goes, you know, I said at one of those sayings, I said that, you know, a change of health or good health starts in the kitchen, not the hospital. And you know, and everything I've read and everything I've watched tells me the same, that if you go plant-based, the results don't come 2, 3, 4, 5 months down the road. The results come within minutes and are profound. So, but it, you know, I mean, we went from, I mean, I was your typical pasty, full cooked English breakfast kind of guy. I do still look like one of them. But so going plant-based was a radical thing. But the health benefits I've had have been profound, and I'm really pleased and thrilled to hear from Brian that so far it's changing his life for the better. So well done to Brian. Thank you for letting me know. I really appreciate that. And to anyone else out there, you know, it's your life and you'll lead it as you want, but it's something to think about. Well, let's have a little wander around the plot. And out the back here, I don't really come out here much at the moment. What I have been doing is putting some of that plastic honeycomb decking in, and you can see the latest patch I've done here, so that it's firm underfoot. I've got this bit here yet to do, and of course the idea is you can't see it, but all the way along there, so even when in the wettest weather, I can move along here to my stalls without squelching and sinking. So that's an ongoing project. Nice to see the daffs coming up around the raspberry plant. And as with the tulips, one of my customers gave me a bag of tulips, and you probably can't see it there, but they are coming up. So, moving to the plot main, again, obviously not a lot happening at the moment. I've got broad beans, garlic and onions overwintering. No sign of any asparagus coming up yet, but then I wouldn't expect it. I'm breaking down these pallets. It's producing really good quality usable timber, which these thick ones I'm going to use to put around a bed or two, and then the remainder will be used, or have been used, to seal in each of the compost bays. So moving down the plot steadily if I can. Like I say, really nothing much happening. There's a garlic there. I might start to put my teepees up, which I will be growing my runner beans and my French beans up. So you can see here that the onions that I sowed back in October have overwintered well. What has helped is the sheer lack of rain. I've never known a winter like it. I mean, I've got to be careful what you say, because you jinx it. But yeah, so I've never known a dry winter, I don't think. So looking down the plot, these are the compost bays I've been working on, and I'm absolutely thrilled with it. You know, again, it's not a rock star lifestyle. Allotments and allotmenteers are simple, down to earth people and places, and it's the simple pleasures that you enjoy. But all I've got left to do is that very end one still has some leaf mould in that I simply couldn't fit in the other bays. So if we take, you know, just take this one, so it's a really simple system. and then my homemade handle out of a branch of wood, and then yeah, I'll get another bag of leaf mould in there. Smells very earthy and woody. It's lovely. Yeah, it's a simple system, and obviously these slats lift out if I want to empty the bay, and I've done that to each and every one of them. And like I say, I've got that end one to sort of fill in the sides. And the only real expenditure, everything else I recycled except all these hinges and a couple of bags of screws from B&Q. So it really has made an awful lot of difference. Anyway, that's enough about that. The rhubarb has made an appearance. I think the cold weather we've had for the last 2 weeks has checked it, but you know, that'll be fine. And then onions and more onions. One of my co-plotters said to me, she obviously had a wander up my plot, and she said, what on earth do you do with all those onions? And I said, well, as far as I'm aware, I'm no expert, but every dish my wife does, because we eat plant-based, every dish we eat starts with an onion. And we've probably got, I mean, we're giving them away to Charlotte and Carl, Mum and Dad, but we've still got another 30 or 40 left. Some of them are starting to sprout green shoots, but that's fine, we can still eat them. So yeah, that's my plot as we stand at the end of January. I don't think it's an exaggeration to say the curly kale has had its day. That's a job I could do today, dig that lot out and sort the bed. But it's lovely, even in the depths of this winter, and we are having a cold snap, that the daffodils are making their way up. I have seen daffodils open already in people's gardens, but yeah, as we stand, that's my plot. I can't remember if I've mentioned this in one of my previous videos, and I certainly, you know, I do watch some of my videos back, especially the ones that are a year ago and 2 years ago, just to see what I was up to at this time last year and so on. And of course, this time last year, I was floating in a sea of floodwater. How the years are different. It's remarkable. I wonder what effect this dry spell. I mean, I've heard, you know, it's one of the driest Januaries on record. I mean, you know what it's like nowadays. Everything's a record. Everything's a crisis. But I do wonder if this dry spell will have a knock-on effect with some crops, because this is the time when buds are fattening and so on. Anyway, but yeah, I remember a sort of funny little story about my diving career. In the early 90s, when I was a staff sergeant, I went out with the Royal Engineer Diving Inspectorate, and our job was to go and inspect all the Army diving teams to make sure they were operationally effective, they were diving within the regulations, as safe as possible, etc., etc. And it was a practical diving assessment, a check of their stores for good procedures, and so on and so forth. Anyway, out in Hong Kong, I remember I went to meet the chap who was in charge of the diving team, and he worked in the mechanical workshops where they fix all the vehicles. This isn't the diving story, it's just a social comment on something I observed. Anyway, I was stood in this big long workshop with vehicles left and right and the main walkway through the middle, and we were talking about the upcoming diving inspection, and one of the locally employed civilians came through, a Chinese chap, and as he walked past he went and spat on the floor. And his staff sergeant, who was a big man, said, "Oi, oi, you dirty sod. You know, clear that up." And his Chinese Hong Kong fella turned around and he says, that's not dirty. I'm not going to do the accent because we're all a bit sensitive nowadays, aren't we? He said, "What you do is dirty." He says, "You take a cloth and you blow it in the cloth and you put it in your pocket. That's dirty." And you know, and anyway, the staff sergeant didn't accept that and he had to clear up his mess. I do remember somebody saying to me later on that was how typhoid spread in China and the surrounding area was through all this prolific spitting that people do. But anyway, and I just thought that's an interesting thought, that both we in the West and he in Asia have a different approach to something simple like that. And neither of us is right or wrong, it's just different. And years later in Afghanistan, I was talking to an interpreter, and he was talking about certain things, you know, locally, and it got onto the subject of how they treat their women out there. And of course now the Taliban are back in charge. You know, I don't even want to think. You know, it's awful. And I'll leave that to one side because it makes me angry. But you know, we were talking about how they treat their women, and talking about how repressed they are out there, and it's, you know, it's horrific. But he said, and it was true, whenever you went through their compounds, which were literally made of wet mud, every one of them had a satellite dish. They were all watching satellite TV, and they saw how women in the West behave, and they said, you are disgusted by the way we treat our women in Afghanistan. We are equally disgusted with the way women behave in the West, because of course, you know, they've got Sky TV, and they could see these reality shows in Ibiza and all the rest of it. And I thought, you know, again, I have no opinion either way that I would repeat here, but I just thought it was an interesting comment that every argument has two sides. Anyway, and I've always tried to, you know, with this COVID situation and any situation in life, there are always two sides. There is no the science. There is lots of science and lots of arguments, and it's good to be able to see both sides. But anyway, back to the diving. We went out to this dive site, and we were given a diving safety brief. So before you go in the water, they mentioned the environment you were diving in, the job you had to do. Anyway, he came on to, I have got a feeling now I start to tell it that I've told this before, and if I have, I apologise. But anyway, he said the visibility in there, he said, right, hazards on site, and there were a few hazards, underwater electric cables and things. He said, right, there is in this area a territorial tiger shark, and he's attacked 2 people this summer. So just be aware, you know, if you see a tiger shark, I mean, a tiger shark's a big lump of meat. If you see a tiger shark, finish what you're doing, come up to the surface, and we'll abort the dive. Okay, that's fair enough. You won't have to tell me that twice. Anyway, and then he moves on to the environmental conditions, the tidal rip, and so on. He says, right, visibility's no more than 1 metre. So, you know, you have to work very close in. And I said, can I just take you back to the bit about the tiger shark? I've got less than 1 metre's visibility, so if I extend my hand, I won't be able to see it. If I see a tiger shark, finish what I'm doing and come up. I think if I see a tiger shark within 1 metre, I'm going to have to finish work anyway. Anyway, I have to say that did play on my mind throughout the next hour while I was in the water. But as you can see, you know, I got away with it. Well, I've done the easy bit. I've emptied the old leaf mould bay, made a hell of a mess. And at the very bottom, this bay's been used for leaf mould for 4 or 5 years now. And I empty it every year, certainly every other year. But at the bottom here, I've dug out some beautiful stuff that's been lying there decomposing for a couple of years. So that's gone on one of the beds. In fact, it's gone on the bed that I've just cleared of the curly kale. But you can see why I'm doing this. The rats, I mean that stuff's paper thin now, but that's what the rats do. They come through. So, and I don't blame them. It must have been a lovely little nest in there in the warm. But you can go and nest somewhere else, thank you very much. Right, let's put this bay back together. Well, I think I've been remiss in my duties lately. I haven't brought you any niff, naff and trivia. So let's correct that right now. When ducks sleep in a row, the ones at either end sleep with their outside eye open, looking for predators. Isn't nature wonderful? Fish swim faster in city rivers than country rivers. Got somewhere to go, obviously. The first English reference to fish and chip shops called them a considerable source of nuisance. Shops sell more clothes if their mannequins have heads. Don't these seem strange? Shrews' heads are 20% bigger in the summer than in winter. The pen-tailed tree shrew's entire diet is fermented nectar containing up to 3.8% alcohol. That's my kind of diet. Alcohol helps you speak foreign languages better. I'm not sure that it helps you speak them better. You're just less inhibited, so you... The International Bartenders Association recognises only 77 cocktails. One of the pilgrims on the Mayflower sailed with 139 pairs of shoes. My wife would say that's wholly inadequate. First names of pilgrims on the Mayflower included Remember, Resolve, Humility, True Love and Wrestling. The royal family is named after Windsor Castle. Yeah, interesting. Well, quite interesting. Well, as I said previously, not the most exciting work, but the result is rewarding. So that's my final bay, completely decked out with solid wood. All I've got to do now is put these vertical bits on and create the slots so I can slide in the battens that form the front. It's also very intensive on wood and I am starting to run out. Anyway, a bit more to do. Well, it's warming up out there now. It's a beautiful day. So actually the fire is no longer needed, but I'm going to keep it going till lunch, and I'll have a cup of soup with my lunch. Anyway, following on from the niff, naff and trivia, there's a couple of origins of sayings in my Red Herrings and White Elephants book that I thought were quite interesting. Point blank. Point blank range means very close to and is usually used in relation to gunfire, as in shot at point blank range. The origin is a military one and stems from the French word point blanc, which means centre or bullseye. It was used to describe the flight of an arrow that flies directly at its target. In other words, you are close enough to the target for no arcing to take place. To tell someone point blank, as in, I told him point blank the answer was no, also suggests the conversation was held at very close range, face to face. Not a sausage. Not a sausage is a way of describing either something as free of charge or one's own self as being penniless. It is derived from an example of the colourful Cockney rhyming slang of London, where sausage and mash was a staple diet between the 17th and 18th century. To be without sausage and mash is to be without cash. I never knew that. Not a sausage. There. Again, only quite interesting. Well, finally, it's taken a few weeks, a lot of timber, a lot of screws, and not an inconsiderable amount of time and effort, but all my compost heaps are now completely enclosed. They've got these slotted fronts that I can pull the shutters out of. Yeah, absolutely over the moon. 2 of them have got leaf mould up to the top, and 1 of them's full of allotment compost that's progressing. So as spring and summer come, I'll hopefully start to fill a couple more. Well, they'll do for Sunday tea. Well, it's mid-afternoon, temperature's starting to drop again, so I think I'll put my coat back on. But it's been a splendid day up here. Sun shone throughout. It was bitterly cold this morning. Fantastic starlit night. So yeah, I've had a good day. I've got some company up here now, and I feel quite productive. Off the plot, I've now got all my seeds from DT Browns, as efficient as ever. When they tell me they've received the order, and then they tell me when each part of it will be dispatched. The last bit is always the seed potatoes, and I now have them. I got everything I asked for. There were no out of stock. So yeah, very happy to recommend DT Browns. And as I said last year, their catalogue is worth a read in its own right. So yeah, I've got everything I need now. I haven't sown a single seed yet. I'm delaying. So back on the plot, as I said earlier, the compost bays are now complete and all immaculate. I've spent the last hour and a half hoeing the beds and raking them, taking out all the tiny little weeds that are just waiting to burst as soon as the spring arrives. So I'm very happy. You know, again, I'm not going to be here much this week. I've got a fair bit of work, and any spare time will be back at home decorating again. So, because the wallpapering is all but finished, but then I've got to take all the doors off, put them on the dining room table, rub them down, paint each side, which means a 24-hour for it to harden, and so on and so forth. You know that if you've ever done any decorating, you know that you do the skirting boards and the door frames, then it makes the doors look a bit off-white. You do the doors, and then it makes the other side in the rooms look off-white, you know. Anyway, I do have a very happy wife at home. I mean, it does look nice. On the plot, I'm ahead of the game, so the fact that I'm not going to be here much this week isn't too much of a bother. As I said, I'm away this coming weekend. So I should be back in 2 weeks' time. So thank you for watching. Hello to all you new subscribers, you're very welcome. I say all you, there's only a couple, but you're very welcome, and I shall see you all being well in a couple of weeks. So look after yourselves, thanks for watching, take care, and bye for now.